Don't yell at me.
Yeah, we're up.
Hungry.
All right, ready?
Only one person on, but.
All right.
Nice.
I'd like to call the work action meeting of the Bogota Board of Education for April 12th to order. Everybody, please stand for the flag salute.
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Bogota Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Bogota Borough Hall, communicated by letter to the record, filed with the clerk of the Borough of Bogota, and posted on the Bogota Board of Education website. Mr. Irfan, can you call the roll?
Mr. Alvarez, absent. Mr. Alvarez,
Present.
Mr. Chavez, absent. Mrs. Cruz,
Present.
Mrs. Coles,
Here.
Mrs. Oliva,
Here.
Mr. Ortega,
Present.
Ms. Record,
Present.
Mr. Miranda.
Present.
We have the quorum.
For the record, Mr. Chavez, due to work, had conflicting, and so did Mrs. Alvarez. Also present are Superintendent Damian Kennedy, our fill-in Jack Zapatinsky, Zapatazny, from the Office of Board of Attorney, William Sukis, School Business Administrator, Board Secretary, Irvin Epsil, and Assistant Board Secretary, Elizabeth Ruiz. We're moving on to the hearing of citizens on agenda items only. Is there any motion to open the floor for hearing of citizens?
Motion.
Thank you. Second,
Second, John.
that was Ortega?
Yep.
Thank you very much. Is there any board discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Like, didn't sound like it. Is there anything from the public on agenda items only? Speakers, please state your name and street address. You have 5 minutes to address agenda items only. Anyone online, Mr. Kennedy?
No.
I'd like to make a motion to close hearing of citizens' remarks on agenda items only.
Motion, Coles?
Thank you, Mrs. Coles. Second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Moving on to the superintendent's report. Do you have anything, the board, this evening, Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, I have a couple of things. First, I'd like to take a moment and ask for a moment of silence. Yesterday, we were notified that one of our middle school parents passed away. And Mr. Halou, whose family was very involved in the middle school this year. And then also this morning, we heard that our former retired maintenance worker, Mr. Luis Ramirez, passed away too. So it's upsetting. And I would just like to, give our condolences, but also just ask for a moment of silence right now. Thank you. Just going over our schedule, Friday, we will have a single session. And next week, all schools will be off for spring break. Our next board meeting will be April 26th, and we will hold our budget presentation for the 22-23 school year. Bogota PD met with all students in grades 6 through 12 last week and reviewed some of the things that we talked about that night that we had them here. And also gave them some more ideas of consequences if things happen off campus and how it can affect them moving forward. We are closely monitoring the numbers. A lot of schools are on spring break this week. So next week, while we are out, a lot of schools will be coming back, so we will be seeing what the numbers look like. We've been fortunate here in Bogota. I had a meeting with the health department today, and our numbers in Bogota have been pretty good. And especially in our schools, we've had limited numbers, so we're hoping to keep that trend moving forward. We got some big things coming up in May. We're looking to do a family university. We're working with our administration right now. Tentative date right now is May 4th, where we will be offering classes for our parents on how to use some school tools, everything from real time to our website, explaining RTI, explaining college processes, and just giving them as much information as we can to help them be successful, to help their students at home. This will be, obviously it's the end of the year. So we're just going to try and get this one off the ground and get it up and running, but we will like to run this again early next year, right after back to school nights. Couple of dates that are going to be set in stone. Bixby 5th grade graduation will be on June 15th. Steen 5th grade graduation will be June 16th. And then the high school graduation will be June 17th. And finally, we are looking to do a big strategic planning meeting in May to discuss the future of Bogota school districts. We need to look at a 3-year plan. We need to have an open dialogue with our families and community. And we want to talk about some of the goals as an administration, as a board, and what the community sees on how we can help accomplish those goals together. So we will have some more information once we lock down some dates where I can make sure the majority of the board is here that night to hear what people have to say. But what we're really looking to do is set a plan forward, and then it's going to be our job to put the plan together and how we're going to move forward with expansions, fields, career technical buildings, just looking at everything that we want to do and have a total transparency and getting the word out to what we're doing. So we will have more information in the upcoming weeks once we have a set date, but it's going to be in the middle of May somewhere. So we will get that word out, but that concludes my super report.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Moving on to section 4.1, approval of minutes from March 8th, 2022 work action meeting. Are there any comments or correction on the minutes? Thank you. Moving on to section 4.2, approval of minutes for March 15th, 2022 regular meeting of the Board of Education. Are there any comments or corrections? Moving on to resolution 5.1, reading of policies. Is there any board comment on discussion of this resolution or the policies referred to in the resolution? Moving on to resolution 6.1 through 6.15 in education section of the agenda. Is there any board comments on any of these resolutions? Bear with me. Moving on to 7.1 through 7.5 in the personal section of the agenda. Is there any board comments on any of the resolutions? Moving on to resolutions of 8.1 through 8.16 of the finance section of the agenda. Is there any board comments on any of these resolutions? As it appears, there's no resolution in the building and grounds section, agenda item 10. Tonight, we have 4 items on the agenda for board consideration and action. Those resolutions are 10.1 through 10.4. Is there a motion to approve resolution 10.1 through 10.4?
Motion, Coles?
Is there any second? Thank you, Ms. Olivo. Any board discussion? Just a reminder, these items are personnel matters where the board is highly limited in what they may publicly discuss. Thank you. Mr. Irfan, can you call the roll?
Mr. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mrs. Cruz,
Yes.
Mrs. Coles,
Yes.
Mrs. Olivo,
Yes.
Mr. Ortega,
Yes.
Ms. Record,
Yes.
Mr. Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Committee reports, section 11.1. Are there any committee reports this evening? Anyone want to discuss anything? Okay, so I guess I'll just discuss a little bit. The financial meeting and the budget meeting took place. And I know that we've, maybe a revision of it or a revisit of it. And maybe Kennedy would like to elaborate, but we had an increase pending in discussion for the new school year. And Mr. Irfan did an excellent job at really digging in the trenches. It doesn't mean we're getting more, it just means that we're kind of leaving things even keel in comparison to the current school year. As you know, there may be some situations in America with finances, jobs, and pricing of goods, and so on and so forth, that everyone is waiting for and what we're hearing. The good thing is we aren't losing anything other than if we were gonna buy 30 pencils, we're buying the same 15, right? We take that in consideration. We know there's inflation costs, but we're gonna have to do the best we can. I do want to point out that the reason we're doing this, or the reason I think, and I say we, but it's obviously the committee, the finance committee. The schools need improvement. Mr. Kennedy just mentioned that. And I think a referendum discussion will be coming up soon. I think the entire board understands that. And it may be without a tax increase, it may be with something minor. So in order for us to give the children the best, we have to kind of consider it and maybe hold off a little bit. I personally, from my statement, don't know if it's the right thing or the worst thing to do. It's very little, but it can always mean something a few years. Mr. Irfan has, I think, recommended and been strong in his stance, but he found a way to do it. I want to thank you for that, Mr. Irfan. You take a lot of consideration on the pennies and what can be done, Mr. Kennedy as well. And I think anyone who sat with us at that meeting understands what the goal is for Bogota, and it's kind of to, COVID seems to continue. New Jersey's up 66% as of this morning. So in case increases, you don't know how many people we're going to lose, what's going to happen at homes. And realistically, we don't really know. We can't foresee the future in this current climate. I personally am from an industry that manages the climate, and it's bad. So we're hoping that we're making the best decision now for a better future. That's all for me. No one else, right?
No, we also had, the negotiation committee has met, and we are beginning early discussions with the BEA on, they have presented to us some proposals from their end early, and we have discussed those, and we will be scheduling a meeting after the break to actually sit down with them and review their requests.
Thank you. Moving on to section 12.1, old business. Is there any old business to the board would like to discuss?
The uniform.
Yeah.
That's right. So today, thank you for the reminder of all these notes. Woo, that's a sensitive topic, right? So I do want to, legally, if you can advise, I have to appoint a committee
Okay.
for uniforms. And I think it's for board discussion and approval. Is that correct? Without a quorum?
I think, yeah, what we had was, we had some families, we have surveys, we have RFPs. And I think what we want to do is take all that into consideration, present something to the policy committee as what this is our uniform policy moving forward. So I would like some board input on doing that moving forward.
So I would like to appoint BC Rocket, Trina Olivo, and Susan Cruz. And I think for every board I sit on it as well, correct? Do you guys accept that appointment?
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. I see you guys have a uniform spirit. Okay, so that's old business.
Oh, wait,
Anything?
question on
Oh.
that. When is the RFP due back?
Thursday, 14th.
The April, I'm sorry,
This Thursday, 14th.
this Thursday, April 14th.
Okay.
And
Oh, sorry.
will that be unsealed and you share all of all the proposals you got back, or just the
So
best
for
ones?
Thursday, 10 a.m., it will be opened. I will put them together. The last time we created drive, so we can share that drive, so you can have all the
Cool.
packages to review with the analysis and the summary.
Thank you.
Are we good?
Yep.
Section 13.1, new business. Is there any new business the board would like to discuss?
I would.
Go ahead, Mrs.
Aftercare,
Coles.
are we doing aftercare this summer? I know that was up in the air at the school, or no?
I haven't heard anything like aftercare, like we're definitely doing summer schools.
Okay, just summer
Um,
school, we're not doing any aftercare?
No, I don't think we
Okay.
have the space to do it.
Okay,
Because specifically because the high school, we're doing a whole HVAC repair and the floors are gonna get pulled up, so we're not gonna be in the high school all the summer, so we're gonna be in the middle school, Bixby and Steam. So I don't know if the rec department is doing their summer program. I don't know. I guess that's a conversation that we could have.
right.
If the company, the company might put something out there to see if anyone's interested in it. But I could look into that.
Can we know rather quickly, I guess, right? Okay, anyone else on new business? Mr. Kennedy, any updates on the Youth Academy?
I received an email just saying that they were not going to be able to do it this summer, timing, scheduling conflicts. I know they were trying to put together last minute. My only conversations with them was to let us know the dates. We would do our best to work with them, but again, we did have our buildings, again, not having the high school available was going to make it tough. In August, our buildings would be available. I don't know if that worked out for them, but that was all I heard from them.
Moving on to section 14.1, I'd like to open the floor to hearing of the public. Is there a motion to open the floor to hearing of citizens?
Motion, John.
No. A second?
Second.
Any board discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Is there anything from the public on agenda items only?
No.
Oh, sorry.
That's
Oh,
it.
no.
All items.
I'm getting used to this. Speakers, please state name and street address. You have 5 minutes. Welcome. Oh,
1 second,
I'm
Jack.
sorry.
They need you to go by the podium and.
There's a mic. Was there a
Microphone
mic?
for the people online.
It should be underneath.
Yeah, underneath.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It should be in the
Oh,
program.
and the show starts very soon.
Is it, can you hear me?
The opening?
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Jackie Taramelik-Setian. I live at 110 Palisade Ave. I just have 2 things, actually. I have 2 kids in the school district. They're both in the Bogota Middle School technically, although my older one is in the 8th grade. When my older one was in 7th grade last year, it was the pandemic year. So I thought that courses were a little bit different, meaning specials. So my issue is specials. I know they have electives when they're in 7th and 8th grade, but I think they're kind of mandatory electives. There isn't a lot of choice. But now I've found out from current 7th grade parents that there are no specials. So there's no art, there's no music, there's no Spanish, there's no media, there's none of that. So again, there are electives in 7th grade, but there aren't any specials. So I just wanted to bring that up because my daughter, my current 6th grader, will be going into the 7th grade. And I did separately have a conversation with Dr. Alfonso at the middle school, and he confirmed that for me, that next year that's not part of their curriculum. And I didn't know that. So I think that's a really important part of their overall education. I don't know how much time they can devote to it. I understand that is certainly a scheduling issue, and that's something for them to discuss. But in my conversation with Dr. Alfonso, when I brought it up to him, he himself didn't seem really happy that there are no specials. So as a parent of an incoming 7th grader, I wanted to mention that, if that could be looked into. And then my second item is completely different. I was just wondering, I actually would have had Mrs. Halou with me, of all things. She was my ally in this, and naturally she can't come tonight. But our daughters played basketball and they love it. And there's nowhere to play for them in town. And we've asked Dr. Alfonso about maybe opening up the Bogota Middle School, either a couple nights a week, a weekend, a couple hours. And he wasn't really able to say whether that's an option or not. Again, I'm sure there are things involved with that, like because the Bogota Middle School per se is, related to St. Joe's. So I understand the St. Joe's schedule on the weekend could affect things as well. But I would just like to say that my 11-year-old, she's tiny. She can't get on the local courts. And Marianne Halou is also tiny, and The basketball team was horrible this year and they loved it. They loved it, but there's no program here. The boys basketball team was pretty rough too. And when we went to the Maywood tournament this year, that's my first experience. It was amazing. It was so awesome. They have a program. They start young. They offer things. And we're relatively new to Bogota. My kids, I started here with them, but just putting it out there that for girls especially, it's really not easy to get on a basketball court. And I know it for personal experience, and I like to play with them, and we can't get on the courts. The weather's nice, everybody's out. Sure, there are local courts, but my kids went to that Bogota where they play golf, and they they used their allowance, $8 for 1 hour, and got an hour. And that was great, but that's not sustainable.
Right.
We have a great middle school now with a wonderful logo that all the kids love. And I just wonder if that's an option. So I really wanted to say that. Or even Steen or Bixby, just a couple nights a week, a couple hours on a weekend. As a parent, I would absolutely volunteer if you need people to go and supervise. I'm certified in CPR, first aid, AED. I'm in law enforcement. I can handle it. So if you want somebody there, I'll be there. We can get volunteers. So that's my spiel.
And I think that's something we could definitely do, so we get the word out there. I know right now they're in the middle of softball season, so the girls varsity coach usually does some things definitely in the summer. But I think to open up the gym after school for a couple of hours wouldn't be complicated if there's an interest. So we could definitely work on something for you.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
I got someone's hand raised. Anissa Bayag?
Hello? Hi,
Hello?
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes.
you.
Hi, respected board members, Superintendent Kennedy. My name is Anissa Baig and I live on 450 Larch Avenue.
Can you say your address, please?
Sure, 450 Larch Avenue.
Thank you.
I have a student currently at Steen School and I come before the board today on behalf of all the Muslim students and the parents in the Bogota schools to request the board to consider approving the Muslim holiday Eid al-Fitr, which is celebrated after a month-long of fasting in the month of Ramadan. A bunch of our neighboring towns have already approved this holiday on their school calendar, and I have emailed the president, vice president, and Superintendent Kennedy. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. He actually has set up a meeting with us, and we will be meeting with them tomorrow in regards to this. And I would really hope to see this holiday on Bogota school calendar because we have a lot of Muslim students and Muslim community moving into Bogota. I thank you all very much. And I hope to have a good meeting with the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Nope. Oh, wait, Mike Connors.
Mr. Connors?
Mr. Connors?
Mr. Kennedy, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy, thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you to the board members for all their hard work as usual.
Connor, I also need your address. I'm sorry.
111 Gray Street, Pagoda.
Thank you.
Mr. Kennedy, I'm trying to bring to your attention a concern that's come to me from a couple of different sources, and possibly staggering the middle school dismissal might help with this issue. Apparently, the amount of students that at dismissal, which I'm not sure exactly the time it is, but between the high school and the middle school dismissing at roughly the same time, there is a huge congestion of kids that are amassing in and around the 7-Eleven intersection right there on Palisades. And of course, my fear, as well as every parent's fear, is that there may be, God forbid, a student that may get hit by a car. There was a student hit with a car today at my middle school, and I'd hate for something like that. Thank God that young lady is okay, but we'd hate for something like that to happen to one of our scholars here in Bogota. So I don't know if for September, I know it's impossible to change it now, Mr. Kennedy, but if there is a way to maybe possibly, my suggestion of a solution would be to either stagger the middle school dismissal maybe 5-10 minutes later than the high school, or maybe a little earlier than the high school, to offset the large amount of boys and girls that are crossing the street at that time. Sorry, my granddaughter decided to enter the fray. So that's all I have, Mr. Kennedy. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, we could definitely look at it. The only thing I will bring to everyone's attention is that we share teachers from the high school with the middle school. We have teachers going back and forth, so we have to figure out a way that we could do that and get the teachers to be there on time and to, you know, they have contracted hours, as you are well aware, that, you know, the timing would be extremely tough if it's 10 minutes off to get the teacher into the classes, but we could look to see what we can do at other options, but the schedules have to remain close because of the simple fact we share teachers.
Right. So I definitely understand that. One other quick thing, Mr. Kennedy, there's a company out there that's selling, it's called LifeVac, and it is I don't know if people have heard the ads on the radio, but it is an anti-choking device. I'll send you maybe a link to that where you could take a look at it. Their ads claim to have the ability to, especially with younger kids, to remove something, God forbid, a child is choking. With younger kids, as some of us may know, the Heimlich is not really something that you can use, but this device apparently is a very successful device and has been used in districts across the country and has been successful from what I understand. I think we should have at least one of those in each of our schools, God forbid the need ever comes up.
What's it called again?
Go ahead.
What's it called again?
It's called LifeVac.
Okay, that's what I just wanted to hear the name of it again.
Right. And to the last speaker, we are currently, and I'm continuing to speak to Dr. Alfonso about the youth club, the Bogota Youth Club, starting at the middle school. I again like to thank Superintendent Kennedy for supporting and for giving the green light. We're currently setting up meetings with the middle school Parents Association, and I'm trying to set up a meeting with Dr. Alfonso so that we can start the Bogota Middle School on Friday nights. And this hopefully maybe would be an answer for this lady's request, because we are targeting specifically the middle school kids, 6th, 7th, and 8th to start with, and then build on that after the youth club is up and running a year or two later. So, you know, please look for that. I will be attending the next middle school Parents Association meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to close hearing of citizens on remarks?
Motion hold.
Second,
Olivo.
any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, section 15.1, executive session. I'll give it one second. Is there a motion to approve?
You gotta read it first. You gotta
Yeah,
read
I'm
it.
looking for it. Give me a second. I have enough paper.
There, right there.
Now therefore be it resolved by the Bogota Board of Education that whereas C.231 PL.1975, also known as the Sunshine Law, authorizes a public body to meet in executive or private session under certain limited circumstances. And whereas said law requires the board to adopt a resolution at a public meeting before it can be in such an executive or private session. Now therefore be it resolved by the Bogota Board of Education that it hereby determine that it is necessary to meet in executive session on April 12, 2022 at 7:30 PM to discuss matters involving negotiations, litigation, personnel. That the matters discussed will be made public when confidentiality is no longer required, and action pursuant to said discussion shall take place only at a public meeting. Action may or may not be taken in executive session. All in favor?
You gotta make a motion?
Oh, motion?
Motion hold.
Second,
John.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Should be about 10 to 15 minutes. Gotta open up and close, or close the meeting, right?
Can I have a motion to reopen, can I have a motion to reopen public meeting?
Olivo.
A second?
Rocket.
All in favor, any board discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Section 16, motion to adjourn. May I have a motion?
Motion called.
Second?
Alvarez?
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night.